Since Thomas said this, the NBA has been in a frenzy.
No one revealed this about Jordan, but I will.
We are all aware that Isaiah Thomas is the one person that Michael Jackson most likely would never forgive.
There's no way you can convince me he wasn't there.
It is widely recognized that Thomas and Jordan harbor a profound animosity towards one another that extends far beyond the realm of basketball. However, today, I will provide you with all the information and behind-the-scenes insights that are sure to astonish you. This includes how Isaiah Thomas's envy of MJ triggered a chain of events culminating in one of the most significant rivalries in NBA history, along with the memorable walk-off moment during the Eastern Conference Finals. Additionally, prepare to be amazed by the leaked audio that resulted in Isaiah Thomas being excluded from the Dream Team. This revelation will truly astonish you like never before. The conflict between Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan began long before it became public knowledge. Now, picture yourself as a top-tier player in Detroit. For you, the league is akin to your backyard. You have fought, sacrificed, and earned respect in the city where you play. That was Thomas's reality in the mid-1980s. Detroit was his domain. However, there was a twist. Michael Jordan, a rookie hailing from North Carolina, entered the league with an unprecedented level of talent, flair, and excitement that had never been witnessed in the NBA, which inevitably led to feelings of jealousy. Thomas had established his identity based on resilience. He was not the superstar with lucrative shoe deals. Instead, he was the floor general, the hard worker, the individual who instilled fear in Detroit's opponents. Everyone in the league understood that when the Pistons took the court, they brought an intensity that was unmatched. Yet, that toughness was confined to the local scene. It belonged to the fans of Detroit, the bars of Detroit, and the gyms of Detroit. That grit did not translate into global fame. It did not sell sneakers, nor did it earn him a spot on magazine covers. This was the void that Michael Jordan filled. He embarked on an extraordinary journey with the Chicago Bulls, and suddenly, the league's focus shifted from merely seeking skilled players to desiring faces that could market and personalities that stood out. Jordan possessed all of these qualities, and just like that, the throne was no longer Isaiah's. The throne was now up for contention, and the global spotlight was directed at Jordan. For Thomas, this must have been a painful realization. This situation was not merely about being outperformed by a superior player. It was about losing relevance and the spotlight in his own city and beyond. He aspired to become the league's next cherished superstar following Bird. However, MJ emerged and presented the world with a clear image of what a global NBA superstar should embody. He had gained some respect through his toughness, but now respect was intertwined with global superstardom. This transformation required not only new skills, but also the creation of a brand. And who possesses the most remarkable brand the NBA has ever witnessed? Yes, you know who. To complicate matters, Isaiah responded to this situation in the most detrimental manner possible. At Jordan's inaugural All-Star Game in 1985, which was a significant platform and a major spotlight for him at that time, rumors circulated that Thomas had influenced several other prominent players, orchestrating a freeze-out, which meant they deliberately kept the ball away from MJ, effectively sidelining the rookie. Thomas, of course, refuted any claims of orchestrating such a scheme. He labeled the freeze-out narrative as absurd and maintained that he was too low in the hierarchy to lead a conspiracy in a league filled with legends like Bird, Dr. J, and Moses Malone. However, when Peter Vesky, an NBA journalist, interviewed Isaiah, Vesky confessed that he might have initiated the rumor, admitting that he did so because Isaiah's agent, Dr. Charles Tucker, approached him at halftime and informed him that Isaiah and the other players were indeed freezing Jordan out. He can deny it as much as he likes, but this serves as evidence of his own agent's admission. From that point onward, for Jordan, it was no longer merely a case of rookie hazing. It became personal. Yet, the lingering question is, why direct your frustrations regarding the league's decisions at a rookie who is oblivious to the situation? We understand that you were once the dominant figure. Certainly, you were tough, but during that era in the NBA, mere toughness was no longer sufficient. The league was evolving, and under the leadership of then-Commissioner David Stern, the NBA was transforming into not just a sport but a product. Jordan emerged as the marketing face of this new NBA. He was no longer just a player. He was a brand. He wasn't just playing basketball, he was selling it. I'm talking sneakers, shoes, commercials, highlight reels, the whole package. He elevated the NBA so much that when he first retired in 1993,
Thanks, Dan. David, obviously you said it was a happy day for you today, but tell me why you thought it was
It was a happy day for me. I said it was a great day for Michael because he's done extraordinary things for our game.
envision the scenario where you are convinced that you possess a crown, only for the world to conclude that another individual embodies the essence of a king more fittingly. This new monarch happens to be a newcomer, bringing with him an unparalleled charisma that you could never replicate. An undeniable star quality. Furthermore, Isaiah hailed from Chicago while competing in Detroit. Therefore, when Jordan arrived in Chicago and began to excel, capturing the admiration of the fans and garnering attention, it transcended merely Detroit's loss of prominence. It was fundamentally about MJ claiming his hometown.
You still want to be Mike. Mike do not want to be your friend, Isaiah. I'm telling you for the fifth time. He do not want to be your friend. You know, stay on ESPN, keep talking on TNT. Oh, Mike should, now you're trying to say everybody better than Mike. It's okay. You not better than Mike.
Beneath the tough exterior and the bravado of the Pistons, there lay a genuine fear. A fear of fading into obscurity. A fear of being replaced, forgotten, and fundamentally, a fear rooted in jealousy. This slow-burning, bitter envy lingered on. And this jealousy didn't just simmer quietly. It erupted on the court in ways that would shape an entire era. When Isaiah's anxiety about being eclipsed collided with the Pistons' reputation for intimidation, it ignited something merciless. The Pistons didn't merely attempt to defend against Jordan. They became fixated on him, analyzing his every move and crafting a playbook solely aimed at dismantling him. When Michael Jordan scored 59 points against the Detroit Pistons in April 1988, something broke within the Pistons' locker room. It wasn't simply a matter of needing to defend him better. It transformed into a determination to break him. The so-called Jordan.
You guys had what they called the Jordan rules.
We came up with that saying with Jordan because this is what Chuck was saying. If Michael goes to the basket, put his ass on the ground. And I put his ass, once he got there, you got to hit him. You got to hit him. I mean, every time he went to the basket, we hit him.
From that point forward, every time Jordan had the ball, it was more than just a game for him. He became the focus of a hit squad. Detroit's strategy was ruthless and exact. As John Sally would later put it, it came down to 3 simple words. Push him left.
You guys have something called the Jordan rule. Talk to us about that.
Push him left. That's your Jordan rule right there. That's all I'm allowed to give away.
Mm-hmm. It's still top secret.
Every time Jordan received the ball at the top of the wing or close to the post, the strategy remained unchanged. They would double-team him, trap him, and force him into traffic or towards the weaker side, clogging the lane and disrupting his rhythm. If he attempted to drive, formidable players like Bill Laimbeer or Dennis Rodman were ready to confront him aggressively, often with the most perilous fouls imaginable. They regarded him as more than just an adversary. He was seen as a threat to their success. The principle was straightforward. No easy touches, no rhythm, and no comfort. The Bad Boys, spearheaded by Isaiah Thomas, aimed not only to defeat Jordan but to inflict mental and physical pain. However, what they failed to anticipate was this. While the Pistons and Isaiah Thomas were preoccupied with crafting a playbook filled with malice, Jordan continued to show up, nursing bruises and a battered ego, yet still rising. Game after game, he persevered through the hits, the double teams, and the fouls. He responded in the only way he knew how, by refusing to be defeated. He trained more intensely, built additional muscle, honed his skills, and gradually changed the game. By the time 1991 arrived, the Chicago Bulls had transformed from a team centered around Jordan into a finely tuned machine. After sweeping the Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals, they paved their way to the NBA Finals, where they triumphed over the Los Angeles Lakers 4-1 to secure their first championship. And speaking of that sweep, during the game against the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals, Chicago led 115-94 with just 7.9 seconds remaining. What did Thomas do? Instead of honoring the team that had just dealt Detroit their first series loss in years, he orchestrated a walk-off.
A great run has come to a close. With 4:38 remaining in this fourth quarter, now Isaiah runs out to center court.
No handshakes and no acknowledgement. Just pure bitterness and ego on display.
He's time enough to think about it. Or the reaction of the public that's kind of changed his perspective of it. You can show me anything you want.
Some Pistons, such as Joe Dumars and John Sally, lingered to exchange quiet handshakes, but it was Thomas's refusal that captured everyone's attention, making it abundantly clear that this was deeply personal. The resentment wasn't without cause, at least from Thomas's perspective. Reportedly, Jordan had labeled Detroit as undeserving champions prior to the game, but let's be real, given all they did to him with the Jordan rules, he had every justification for that remark. The aftermath of that walk-off was harsh, and the media was relentless. Bulls players like Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen deemed the walk-off immature, and even Jordan himself dismissed it. Meanwhile, Thomas would hold onto that grudge for years, publicly lamenting and attempting to alter the narrative. For Jordan, however, it served as motivation. If you're a true Jordan fan, you understand that every slight and foul from Detroit only honed his skills, made him more resilient, and pushed him closer to the throne he was always meant to occupy. And that throne is precisely what Isaiah Thomas couldn't tolerate. How is it that he rallied his entire team against one individual, yet that individual emerged as the greatest basketball player of all time? To add insult to injury, Isaiah Thomas has never really concealed how much Michael Jordan affected him. Even years after the Pistons' dynasty fell apart, he continued to speak about Jordan like a child who just got overshadowed on the playground. You have to check out this clip.
Everybody kissed his feet, but I refused to. That's why he hated me.
And just like that, he confessed to the one underlying issue in all of this, his jealousy. However, what he failed to realize was that no one actually kissed MJ's feet. They held him in high regard because he utterly dominated everyone else on the court. Fast forward to May 2020. He appeared on the Fox Sports show, Speak for Yourself, and nonchalantly asserted that Michael Jordan never truly defeated Larry Bird or Magic Johnson.
Michael Jordan didn't beat Larry Bird. You showed Michael Jordan going between his legs one time in the highlights, against Larry Bird. And that was the game he got 63.
That's when he dropped 63 on Bird, yes.
He genuinely attempted to alter the narrative, placing himself at the forefront while relegating Jordan to a secondary role. Additionally, in the interview with Shannon Sharpe, he took it a step further by claiming he outperformed Jordan, asserting that MJ was not even a rival.
Just head to head, I was dominant over him. When our teams met, when you go back and you look at until 91, when I basically had career-ending wrist surgery, my record against him and his team, it really was a competition there.
It's astonishing because the statistics, the championships, the finals, and the sheer dominance all completely contradict his narrative. That's the essence of Isaiah. Even after decades, he continues to try to carve out a place in someone else's legacy. He goes about as if he was the primary hurdle, as if he was on the same level. Yet everyone who witnessed those games knows the reality. Jordan was not just superior. He transformed the very definition of greatness. Even Scottie Pippen didn't hold back. Pippen labeled him as bitter and ungrateful. A man who refuses to acknowledge the respect Jordan earned on every single court he ever stepped onto.
I find that comment there just hating. I've never seen this guy embrace or thank Michael Jordan for what he's done for the game.
Honestly, it makes you shake your head a bit. Here's a guy who once dominated the East, who had his shining moment, now decades later, running around trying to persuade everyone that the greatest of all time wasn't really that impressive. So yes, the whole I refuse to kiss his feet stance is almost amusing if it weren't so evident. It perfectly encapsulates his mentality. Stubborn, resentful, and unable to confront reality. But one thing is certain about the NBA and life in general. Believe it or not, karma is real, and Isaiah Thomas faced his share of it. Now, here's where the narrative takes a turn. In 1992, Just a year after the walk-off incident in the finals, the NBA assembled the greatest super team in basketball history. The 1992 United States Olympic men's basketball team, also known as the Dream Team. This squad was made up of all-stars, legends, the creme de la creme. Yet one name was glaringly absent: Isaiah Thomas. Despite having won 2 championships and being coached by Chuck Daly, the same coach of the Dream Team, on paper, he had the qualifications: 2 NBA titles and numerous all-star selections. However, when the roster was announced in September 1991 and the final spots were confirmed in May 1992, his name was never mentioned. Officially, the team claimed they needed players who could seamlessly integrate into the group without any drama, and guards like John Stockton appeared more favorable on paper with less baggage and risk. But that clean resume narrative always felt like a facade because we all know the real reason he wasn't selected. What did people expect? The guy had a reputation, and that reputation got him excluded from the team because he had clashed with everyone who could have helped him join. Magic, Jordan, Pippen, and the rest. This was no longer about talent. It was about history, grudges, and pride. In fact, Pippen openly acknowledged it.
Well, I can't speak for Michael, but no, I did not want to.
Despite his claim that he couldn't represent MJ in 2011, an audio recording emerged where MJ supposedly told committee member Rod Thorne, "I won't play if Isaiah Thomas is on the team."
They called me to ask me to play. Rod Thorne called me and said, "Rod, I won't play with Isaiah Thomas on the team."
Imagine that. The greatest player of that era himself essentially stating, "You can't sit with us." But let's take a moment to discuss the statistics because the team's decision to select other players over Isaiah Thomas was officially validated. By 1992, Isaiah Thomas was averaging approximately 19.2 points, 9.3 assists, and 3.6 rebounds per game throughout his career. In contrast, John Stockton was averaging 14.5 points and 10.5 assists per game, while Clyde Drexler was scoring 20 points, grabbing 6 rebounds, and dishing out 5 assists. Even Jason Kidd and Chris Mullin could deliver consistent performance with less drama. So yes, there was a basketball rationale, but it doesn't hold up when you consider what Thomas contributed. He met every criterion on paper except for being desired. And let's face it, the man had burned many bridges, and that was simply the NBA karma at work. It affected him so deeply that he continues to discuss it decades later. In 2020, he referred to it as the biggest gap in his resume. He remains astonished, still resentful, and still attempting to explain why he deserved a spot on the team. However, the truth is that his own behavior constructed the barrier that excluded him. So yes, you could envision a hypothetical scenario. What if Isaiah had made the team? Would the Dream Team have suffered a loss? Probably not. With Jordan, Magic, Bird, and Malone, there was too much firepower for anyone to overcome, but it would have introduced an element of toughness, a competitor unafraid to engage physically and mentally. Perhaps the chemistry would have been more chaotic. Perhaps it wouldn't have been, but that's the crux of the matter. It was no longer about what he could accomplish on the court. It was about how he influenced everyone else, and that's why he was left out. Fast forward to 2020. By this time, Michael Jordan's legacy was already beyond reach. The championships, the statistics, and the records were all enshrined in history. Then came The Last Dance, ESPN's 10-part documentary that allowed the world to glimpse behind the scenes of Jordan's dynasty. For many of us, it was a celebration. For Isaiah Thomas, it felt like pouring salt on a decade-old wound. Suddenly, everything he had tried to rewrite in his mind, the stories of being as good as MJ, the grudge against the Dream Team, the Pistons walk-off, was displayed on screen for the entire world to witness. Jordan, as composed as ever, narrated it all with a smile. The documentary depicted him as a dominant force, clutching victories, laughing, and effortlessly commanding respect. In contrast, Isaiah, who had spent years asserting that he was the one MJ couldn't defeat, found himself thrust back into the limelight, just as the world remembers him, jealous, defensive, and fixated on Jordan's accomplishments. As expected, a few weeks later, he began appearing in interviews, podcasts, and media spots, anywhere there was a camera and microphone. On ESPN, NBA TV, Vlad TV, Club Shay Shay, and even with Jalen and Jacoby, he was everywhere, trying to persuade everyone that Michael Jordan's legendary career somehow paled in comparison to his own greatness. Ironically, every time he spoke, he only underscored the reality that he could never truly compete with MJ. The documentary itself didn't need to defend Jordan. MJ's legacy spoke volumes. Each time Isaiah attempted to insert himself into the narrative, the evidence against him was right there on screen. MJ's 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs, 5 regular season MVPs, and a global cultural impact that Isaiah could only dream of achieving. For MJ, the past is just that, the past. He has built, won, and evolved beyond it. For Isaiah, he turned every chance to show respect into bitterness, and The Last Dance merely illuminated this for everyone to see in high definition. To truly understand why Isaiah Thomas could never cease his animosity towards Michael Jordan, one must consider the broader context. It wasn't merely about the Pistons' walk-offs, the Jordan rules, or the Dream Team snub. It was more profound than that. Michael Jordan epitomized everything Isaiah aspired to be. He was the face of the league, a global icon, a cultural phenomenon adored by all. Jordan didn't merely excel in games. He captured hearts, minds, sneakers, advertisements, magazines, everything. Isaiah constructed his empire on resilience and determination in Detroit. In contrast, MJ created an entire universe around himself. Now, let's delve into the statistics because if you're debating skill or achievements, the numbers are indisputable. Over his career, Jordan averaged 30.1 points, 6.2 rebounds, and 5.3 assists per game, while Thomas averaged approximately 19.2 points and 3.6 rebounds. MJ was an unstoppable force. And it wasn't limited to the regular season. In the playoffs, Jordan averaged 33.4 points per game. In the finals, he achieved a perfect 6-0 record, earning all 6 finals MVP awards. Meanwhile, Thomas secured 2 championships in '89 and '90. However, when he faced Jordan, things became complicated. In the 1991 Eastern Conference Finals, Detroit was swept 4-0. Jordan scored nearly 30 points per game, hitting clutch shot after clutch shot, while Thomas resorted to dirty tactics but couldn't halt the unstoppable force. That's the distinction. And this wasn't merely about numbers. Consider the style and the persona. Jordan didn't just win games. He marketed basketball. Look at all the sneakers, commercials, Air Jordans, and highlight reels. The man was omnipresent. He didn't just play, he embodied the sport. While Thomas remained a Detroit legend, a local champion who was cherished in his hometown, but the world beyond, Detroit was indifferent. And that was the truth. Because all of a sudden, the crown he believed he possessed in Detroit slipped from his grasp. The reality is, it wasn't merely about statistics or championships. It was about being clutch. Jordan excelled when the stakes were highest. Every playoff buzzer beater, every fadeaway jumper, every finals performance proclaimed, "I'm the best." But Thomas, while talented, couldn't replicate that level of sustained, era-defining dominance. Jordan was a powerhouse. Thomas, even at his peak, was just another solid player. This leads us to why this entire situation feels personal. Every dunk, every championship, and every cultural milestone that Jordan reached served as a reminder to Thomas that he was overlooked. Not due to a lack of skill, but because the world favored Jordan. And we can't fault anyone for choosing MJ. Let's compare them directly. Jordan boasts 6 finals MVPs, 5 regular season MVPs, 14 All-Star selections, 10 scoring titles, 10 All-NBA first-team honors, 10 All-Defensive Team selections, 2 Olympic gold medals, led the Dream Team, and is a global icon. In contrast, Thomas has 1 Finals MVP, 12 All-Star selections, 2 All-NBA first-team honors, 3 All-Defensive Team selections, 1 Olympic gold, and it wasn't even with the Dream Team. Their achievements are not even comparable. So yes, that's why Isaiah could never fully acknowledge it. MJ wasn't just superior on the court, he dominated everything else. The spotlight, the brand, and the worldwide fame. Isaiah had determination and championships, but Jordan had legacy, superstardom, and the world at his feet. Every statistic, every finals appearance, and every highlight emphasizes this. And that's why, even decades later, the resentment lingers. But here's the crucial question. How do you compete with someone who is destined to be the greatest?